Well, are you feeling good and safe? I'm feeling pretty cozy in my little office here, but maybe I shouldn't be. Is it still fucking recording? That's so weird. Okay. Sorry about that. I just had to make sure. I've got the cakewalk running in the background, and I thought I set a limit, but apparently it's ongoing. Well, alright. So let's get back to the subject matter at hand. Are you feeling cozy? You should be. Not. It's fucking terrifying out there, man. I'm just reading more and more about this. Or not really reading, but watching videos by a YouTuber called Top Mysteries. And he talks about things, including the actual 401 cases that David Paulides talked about. All of these strange disappearances all over the world. And on my David Paulides videos, somebody named Balboa X, I think it was, commented that all of this is human trafficking because there's tunnels everywhere, especially in national parks. Now that is truly fucking terrifying, because that's actually like some mad Scooby-Doo shit right there. So what they would do, and it's a very lucrative business, is they would go out there and they would friggin' just kidnap people and then take them down into a tunnel, and then later on put their body in a weird position to fucking make it look like there's ghosts or some kind of shenanigans like that going on. That's pretty freaky, because it's very, very plausible. But the span of the cases and their strange commonalities in the large geographic area is what still leaves that, area of big mystery for me. Maybe it's a combination of what this fellow, Mr. Balboa, suggested, along with some crazy shit we can't even begin to think of, or some other mundane thing that we haven't thought of yet. But, man, I like to go camping and hiking, so sometimes, I'd go alone, and man, I actually have some very interesting stories that I'll share. Not terribly interesting, but just kind of like, that's kind of coincidental. But yeah. So, this is going to be a really brief video. It's really late in the evening, and hell, it's night, actually. And I've spent the earlier part of the day, taking notes and things, watching the videos that was recommended by Bogdan, or however you say that. I'm not sure if that's a Serbian or a Romanian name, but he linked me to a video by Freedom Alternative, who is a kind of an edgy Romanian vlogger, and I learned some interesting things there. Like, I didn't really know how widespread mosque building was in Russia, and just how much of a kind of an appeasement there seems to be towards Islam. Now, that's something I'm going to have to, dig a little bit deeper into, but that's one surprising fact that I learned. But another commenter on my video regarding, V's video, and then the Georgian commenter. This is getting clusterfucky, like very meta, I'm sorry. But I'll just start reading. So when this Georgian fellow, this is actually a German guy commenting to me, trying to explain this Georgian's position, says, "It sounds weird, but if you have border with Russia, you should cut every tie with them, or the Kremlin will use your own people against you." I can understand where he's coming from, because the more your culture, language, and institutions resemble Russia, the easier it is for them to justify an annexation, not just to the rest of the world, but also the people of the annexed nation. Because why should you complain when nothing changes for the average citizen, when the institutions stay mostly the same and life doesn't change all at once? At that point, what excuse do I have to oppose it? Would it not be better for the nation to be incorporated into the motherland? Would it not add to the country's prosperity if it had access to a much greater economy? At that point, what's the point of preserving one's culture? After all, is it not basically the same? Well, no. I mean, Wales and Scotland and Ireland are part of Great Britain, but they all have very distinct cultures from England, which is kind of the dominant nation there. Now, I am not proposing that there would be like some kind of a great Slavdom thing, weird pan-Slavicism idea that floats around out there. But basically, I don't see what was just mentioned as being a problem coming from the Russians. I see it more as coming from NATO, especially in terms of a strong economy, or not from NATO, but I mean it's associated with NATO, the EU. They want that strong economic backing. And the culture of Western Europe is a lot different than the culture of Eastern Europe. Catholicism and Protestantism versus Orthodoxy, for instance. And there's also a friend of mine that's a Russophile, and he mentions several points. Now, I don't know how accurate these are. I'm going to have to look into them. I'm not some kind of propagandist here. I don't want to be like the Russian Ben Shapiro, but some of the initial Russians that came into Georgia, and the Russians that came in there, according to this guy, are Cossacks, most likely, killed some of the nobility, the Georgian nobility, that is. When they took over the Georgia, they were paranoid that they might still be playing the Turks. That is, the Georgians were kind of, the Georgian nobility was playing both the Turks and Moscow, which is common in the Caucasus. But later, Russia enriched and built Georgian institutions up, preserving their heritage. And this was in 19th century Russia. So then he jumps ahead to the USSR. Under the USSR, Georgia is one of the republics given priority in development on the backs of the Russian republic's heart of the economy, which is kind of probably similar to what's happening to a lot of these periphery nations in the EU on the back of, very hardworking Germans. I'm not saying like that to shit on the countries that are the satellites. I'm saying that, Germany and the more powerful countries do use it to their advantage. So at that point, Russia was probably, the USSR. Sure, they were doing some nice things, but, it still cost the Russian stuff, and it's not like they went in there and they destroyed their culture. I mean, communism probably did to an extent, but they destroyed Russian culture as well. And the current situation with Russia is now not communist. They're not going to go in there and tell the Georgians to tear down their institutions and their ways of living. I just don't see that happening. I don't see any reason for that sort of intrusiveness. In terms of the Russian population that is there, I don't know really how terribly high it is. And if it is, I don't see them trying to bully the Georgians out of their own customs. I mean, I used to talk to a Georgian. The Georgians seem pretty Georgian over there. It was during the 2008 kerfuffle that I was actually talking to this young man. I was about 18 at the time, and he saw one of my videos that I had, and we exchanged conversation. We played Halo together a couple of times. So, I mean, that's my little kind of just keeping up with what I'm going through, and giving it back to you in kind of this muddled way. But it's the best I can do for right now. But at least, I'm keeping this conversation alive. And as I said, there's a lot of notes and things here to go through. I still have 2 more videos to watch from the Russia is Not Great series, from Freedom Alternative, and I'll keep you all posted. Thanks so much for listening. My main website is fractaljournal.com, where you'll find stories, ideas, and more. Cheers.